Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome tonight to all those you people here in Merlin, Oregon, and all of those online, wherever you are. Welcome tonight's class. This is a Discovery Wednesday class, which means there'll be time for you to participate right in the middle of the class, wherever you are, in the room or online. So the layout for tonight is it'll be a 60-minute talk approximately by Guy, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. And then we'll go right into the Q&A after that. So that's the time for you to join in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But anytime if you have a problem or if you have a question or something, you can send it into the question box or chat box, and Kate will record that for you and get it to me, who is the host tonight. So, and then get it to Guy, obviously. All right, let's get started. You ready, John? Okay. The title for tonight is See This, If You Would Be Free. And the key lesson reads, Honesty heals, lies hurt. In these 4 words live all one needs to know and practice, that is, assuming one wishes to be whole, harmless, loving, and true.
Good evening. I need you to be pretty awake, alert, active, and all of the things that generally you're never that way. But tonight is a new night, and you're going to surprise me and everyone that joins us online, and I say the same thing to you. We're going to go deeply into a topic that really requires you making repeated, concerted efforts to remain as awake as you can, because the topic itself is something that no one wants to talk about. Isn't that exciting? So Doug read the first key lesson, and it more or less sets the stage, but I just touch on the one first sentence, and that is that honesty heals, lies hurt. I want to involve you a number of different times during our meeting. Not just when we build the list that we do on Discovery Wednesdays, where we get to see where it is that we all live from a certain nature that we don't know we all live from, and that the more we are willing to investigate that unseen relationship that we have with it and with everyone else that lives from and within it, the better chance we have to observe ourselves and to discover what's true and what's not. Because the way we are now, we live under the authority of reactions that tell us what's true and what's not, and we believe in those reactions because they tell us what to do to release ourselves from the unwanted moments that they themselves, by the way, have created. Honesty heals, lies hurts. Let's bring up the second key lesson, please. Read along with me. It is impossible to heal ourselves and continue to lie to ourselves about ourselves at the same time. It is impossible to heal ourselves and continue to lie to ourselves about ourselves at the same time. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply at the outset here into that idea, but I trust that you can see in some semblance of the light that it's presented, that if I lie to myself about myself, how can I possibly heal what is hurting me in and about myself? For instance, at the simplest level, does not an addict of any kind live in a constant series of lies that enable them and whatever they are involved in, creating and confirming a relationship by which they are a captive of the very thing that they think is going to heal them or save them? Yes or no? So they cannot see they are living a lie. can they? Now, this in itself is an extraordinary fact about human nature. Now, we think that may be like a really, over-exaggerated example of this strange relationship that we have with a nature that lies to us. But you'll see that we are all, to one extent or another, without having any idea at all of the truth of it, in a very bizarre, codependent relationship with a nature that, in order to ensure its continuity, involves us in the lie of its life, so that we go on speaking and doing and acting out the things that it tells us is true about us and what we must do in order to escape the things it tells us are tormenting us. When the truth is, the torment that it blames is not the torment that is to be named. The torment is that we live from a consciousness that doesn't know what else to do other than to produce a condition that it claims is responsible for its pain, and that's the first lie. And the second lie is what we have to do to release ourselves from this condition that this nature blames for its pain. Clear enough? Setting the stage. A long, long time ago, a man by the name of Socrates was being tried, life and death trial. He lost, by the way. He was being tried for what was called his impiety. He wasn't towing the line the way that the city leaders and elders wanted him to tow it. And he was corrupting the youth. You know how he was corrupting the youth? He was getting them to question authority. But not just the authority of the place and the time that they lived in, but to question the authority that they were constantly being subjected to, born of their own nature. And so he said something quite famous. You all know it, I think. An unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined life is not worth living. I'm bringing you in early. Why? See, you mustn't allow your usual nature to do its Wonder Woman deflection of these things. I ask, why is an unexamined life not worth living? Because you and I do not live an examined life. We examine a life we think is life, and then try to derive from our own examination the way in which to proceed so that we can get the life that we're examining to line up with what we imagine life should be. Why is a life unexamined not worth living? I'm asking this because you see, little by little, you have to become a man or a woman who understands there isn't, and I mean this almost literally, apart from some very rare exceptions for some individuals a little further along the line than you are, your life should be a constant state of self-examination. Now, the extraordinary thing is that when I say a constant life of self-examination, I don't mean doing what Leah was talking about prior to class, examining what may or may not happen and what I have to do so it happens the way I want to. The act of true self-observation is constant examination. The act of self-observation is constant self-examination. Because in the act of being aware of yourself, you are bringing into that moment something that can see about yourself that you can't see when you're busy living from a mind telling you, got to go here, got to do this, got to get that done. Do you understand? So why is an unexamined life not worth living? A couple hands. Terry. She said, because there's nothing new in it. We can go with that. There's no new revelation about myself or this life, which they're inseparable. Who else? Patricia.
It's futile. Doesn't lead anywhere.
An unexamined life is futile. Now, we're all going to, Ellie, yeah.
You don't know that you're being led around by life.
An unexamined life leads me into a life where I have no idea what it is that I'm examining, let alone why I'm examining it and what's going to come of it. Barbara.
I'm just under the authority of past thoughts.
An unexamined life is not worth living because my life is constantly under the authority of a host of different reactions to a life that I thought I examined and concluded should be this way. so I'm constantly suffering. So we get this idea a little bit. I say these things and I stress these things because little by little by little by little, God willing, you'll want to be a man or a woman who spends more time in a properly contemplative state, who understands that your life is running out like the sands of time, and that it is your responsibility, if you ever want to know anything real about this life, to spend time examining what in the name of God is pushing, pulling, running me from pillar to post, telling me don't do this, don't go there, stay here. What's talking to me? Because until you understand what's talking to you, you're being talked to death, literally. So, a little bit of this idea, we have a kind of an idea, yes, what it means, why one must examine their life, yes? And to what end those studies? To what end a self-examination? To what end? The way we are now, our self-examination begins with judgment, doesn't it? So what if self-examination led us to understand that through that examination we can learn something about this judging nature and become the witness to something that is killing us instead of summarily serving it every time it serves its judgment to us? So we're always talking about a new level of potential freedom through every possible thing that we can learn through a proper state of self-examination. And to be clear, philosophy is not self-examination. Religion is not self-examination. Self-examination is the moment in which I am present to the moment I am in, so that I can see all of the elements involved in that experience. And in the end, the real examination leads to the discovery that there's no me separate from all of those moments and the way they're interacting. I wrote a little paper. Never done it before for a class, but I'm going to read this to you. I thought it was important because so many people, no, it's not that. This may or may not get posted. There is a twofold reason for Discovery Wednesdays. And though they may seem unrelated, they are inseparable in terms of delivering insights into the new and higher understanding we need to continue developing a conscious relationship with a power greater than ourselves that alone has the power to free us. The first of these two reasons, and one of the reasons, by the way, that so many students have trouble with Discovery Wednesdays, hear it all the time, why do you have to be so negative? Is because on these evenings we work as diligently as possible to negate whatever unconscious beliefs we may have and still hold on to ourselves, about ourselves. We do this as a group of spiritual explorers that we agree in that time to undergo certain shocks that are going to come about as born of realizing that we are not only as we've imagined ourselves to be, but that everybody lives in that same kind of imagined life. Therefore, we all have a similar experience of struggling with anything that challenges what we imagine. But at the same time, part two, through this process of negation, we are discovering that we are not who we've imagined ourselves to be and that we're not alone in this journey. Is it not fascinating to hear that everybody has the same basic thoughts and structure that supports them as do you? We see that everyone suffers living in and under the same shadow nature that we do, under the same authority that we do, even though we think we're the only one under the thumb of that tormenting thought and feeling when it takes us over. In this way, Discovery Wednesdays, and God willing, every day will be your Discovery Wednesday, we confirm and affirm at the same time the existence of an indwelling living light that we can see and that will help us see that we all live under the same illusion and suffer from it as well. So we use a process of negation to affirm the presence of a light that can see what we can't see about ourselves. So it's not just negation, it is negation that brings about the confirmation of a new possibility that doesn't exist unless we are willing to examine even the parts of ourselves we don't want to look at. Yes? So, Discovery Wednesdays are an illusion-busting class meant not just to shatter the false images we have of ourselves, but to liberate us from the many lies we continue to live with in order to justify those same self-serving images. That's Wednesday Discovery. So you can't say it's negative. Isn't it funny? Negative. Your face wants to get negative. Clear enough? So then you're all okay with going through the negation that we go through. Maybe, she said. Let's get ready to rumble. In a moment, I'm going to ask that the list come up for this evening's class. And I want you to be as proactive as you can, given whatever willingness you can come up with to deal with what I'm bringing up as our topic for discovery. You ready? Let me see you look nice, light, and bright. Let me see you look nice, light, and bright. Here comes the list. Name one or more examples of the kind of lies you suspect you may tell yourself or to others in order to get through some challenging moment with the least amount of pain, or if more palatable for this study, what would be an example of a lie you see others tell in similar moments that they too must believe is required of them. Name one or more examples of the kind of lies you suspect that you may tell to others in order to get through that uncomfortable, challenging moment. You get that, right? Why else would I tell a lie? Or if you're unable to see anything about yourself, I'll prime the pump so to get you started. You all constantly judge others as being liars. So at least you can come up with that, and then we'll see if the shoe fits. And if it does, what do? We wear it. So let's prime the pump. What was it? Kool and the Gang. No, was it smiling faces sometimes tell lies? You've heard that expression? How about this? Do you ever act as if you're not attached or concerned with any particular moment? Isn't that a lie you're telling yourself? I take on the persona of someone who never sweats, while inwardly I've had to use 3 doses of secret to keep myself from revealing, God, I'm a mess right now, but I don't want anybody to see it. How about this? For a lie we tell ourselves, I can change anytime I want to. I can. I just haven't really gotten serious yet. Yes or no? How about this? Pretending to be someone that you're not. This runs pretty deep. You don't know it, but every time you spend any time at all preparing an image of yourself or something to take into the moment with you so people can see you as you've imagined yourself to be, you are not just telling a lie, you are living a lie that you don't know you're living. And what is the result of living a lie that you don't know what you're living? That you don't know you're living? What's the result of living a lie that you don't know you're living? John. Fear. An endless struggle. Isn't it funny that because of the lies that we live and believe in, that we have been conditioned to accept as absolutely required if we're ever going to be a whole, happy human being, that our life is spent in the service of struggling to prove a lie that no matter what you do, you will never disprove. Because conditions always come along and reveal the fact that I was laboring, this is a euphemism, I was laboring under a false assumption. When the truth is I was identified lock, stock, and barrel with whatever it is that had come up in me telling me it has to be this way, you have to be that way, I've got to get through this moment no matter what. What can I do? And out of that thought and that process of reactions, this unconscious nature is forever. And by the way, it's not throwing a lifeline down. It's throwing a lifeline up from beneath you that your mind sees as the only possibility to get your hands on something to save you, and you get it and down you go. Name one or more example of the kind of lies you suspect you may be telling yourself or you see others do. We're going to build a nice list. Patricia.
I don't really care about this or that.
I don't really care about this or that. Ellen. Oh, Roger.
Saying I understand when I really don't.
This is a big one. How many of you often say, I understand, and you didn't even hear what they said? Yes or no? Who else? Barbara.
If other people would change, I'd be okay.
This is such a big lie. If you, Doug, would just, if you family member, if you person on the street, if you would just do and act the way I need you to do and act, I wouldn't suffer. What a humongous lie. Now, how do we know, by the way, that's a humongous lie? Because you've been trying to control the world for 1 billion years. You, meaning this consciousness. And what comes out of a consciousness trying to control the actions of others, other than more conflict that you blame then on them, and that confirms the lie you told yourself as them being responsible for your suffering. Yes or no? Who else has something? Deb.
The reason why I'm worried or concerned is because I love you.
This is a big one. I'm absolutely sick to my stomach in worry over you. Now, I'm not saying that we don't worry over people we love. That you'd be a monster if you didn't think about and hold the best wishes for people. But you're worrying over people and the negative energy and what you invest in that, all of that is self-love. So one of the lies in which we hide self-love is through this exaggerated so-called worrying over people, places, and things. Let me go to the board. I'm ignoring it. Jane says, I'm fine. Everything's okay. You know, the funny thing is we know some of these people, and you can see how that plays itself out, can't you? Juan says, I worry about another's condition by victimizing myself so you can empathize with me instead. That's like going to somebody on their deathbed and hoping they ask you, are you okay? Gino, the lie is, I'm not attached to that way of thinking, but don't challenge it. Paul, this suffering is necessary to prove how much I care. Rebecca, my 24/7 lie, I'm really excited about this opportunity because I'm a good worker and not feeling inadequate at all. See, this is so good. John.
I didn't do that.
So why are you accusing me of that, Debbie? John said, I didn't do that. Every form of psychological defensiveness is a lie told by a nature that fears if it can't prove it's innocent, then it's going to be further condemned by whoever it is that brings it on. Terry.
It's the same line about defensiveness. Someone bringing it to your attention and you saying, I was aware of that.
Yeah, isn't that, somebody says, did you know? I knew even before you said it. Men, let me go to the board. Nick, I'll help you. That's pretty good. I'll help you no matter what, but not that. See, that's a little bridge too far. Namita, I care about my family and friends in the world and can help make everything better. Yeah, that's a pretty big lie, isn't it? I can't even help myself, but I'm going to make the world better, Ellen.
My motivations are always pure.
Yeah. She said, unlike you, my motivations are perfectly pure all the time. It's what makes me so extraordinary. Doug.
I don't really care what you think about me.
Yeah. I don't care what you think about me. That's why I'm saying that, incidentally. Deb.
I'll stretch the truth to be right.
She said, I'll stretch the truth to be right, meaning I'll just enlarge and enhance. I'll just keep talking until something comes out that sounds right, basically, on the board. Rob, making the mistake not, every time I try to make a mistake that I made not seem so bad, I'm covering up, aren't I? Ozeo, I don't know how to, Ozezua. I apologize. Maybe you can come on sometime and teach me to pronounce that. I will be happier once I've done achieving this. This is pretty big. I have to stop because I have so much to go into with you. But it's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? Now, did anybody agree that they tell certain lies to themselves that you haven't told yourself? Or are they all kind of one giant lying nature with 1,000 different heads that we try to lop off one at a time, or we hope that someone will save us from? Whew. Ready? Next question. Why lie? Why lie to anyone? Now we just, come on, don't go away. We just sat here and agreed that we're all the time, my mother called it prevaricating. That's what the world today, they don't call you a liar. You've stretched the truth. Why prevaricate? Why lie? Anybody? Why do I tell lies? Ellen.
I don't want to see the awful truth about myself.
I don't want to see things about myself. Who else? John? You had same thing?
Basically,
Why lie? I'm going to ask it again. Anybody out there want to venture it? Yes, Leah.
I don't want to be average.
I don't want to be average? It was way too late, Leah. Nothing is more mediocre than men and women who live with lies. Roger.
I don't want to deal with that right now.
I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm going to take two more, but nobody's touched it. Yeah.
We don't know we're doing it.
We don't know we're doing it. Was that you, John? Had a twitch?
Terrified of the truth.
Ah, close. He said, terrified of the truth. I lie because I'm afraid what will happen if I don't lie, if I don't cover this up, if I don't make it seem like I need you to see it or I need myself to see it. I'm terrified of the result if I don't lie. I mean, think about that for a moment. I'm afraid that if I don't lie, something bad is going to happen. What worse could happen than a human being believing in a nature that tells them not only do you have to cover up your own fear, but you need to make sure that no one else knows you're afraid by covering up this lie that you just told. All the examples you did just now, they're all about that. Aren't they all cover-ups? Aren't they? So, can we suspect, I have to keep going because can you see there's a kind of unconscious machinery here? Because we're all in the boat one way or another. Do you ever tell yourself, you know what, I'm never going to do that again? And then not only do you forget that you said you're never going to do that again, but you're in all lock, stock, and barrel. And then when you find yourself feeling tempted to do what you know you ought not to do, you will hear something and you say, just one more time, which none of you mentioned as the big lie. Just one more time, or you know what, all right, I failed, but here's the next big lie. Next time, it'll be different. Is it ever different as long as I'm listening to a lie, or do lies ensure that nothing changes? Which is why self-examination is so important. Making a circle, yes? So there's a machinery, and it is. It's not you. It's a nature, it's an unconscious mind, an unconscious nature that is constantly working to do what? What is that mind always struggling to do when it tells a lie? It is struggling to keep the image that it has vested itself in and that you are identified with. It's struggling to keep that in place. Else why would I feel the need to convince you with a lie that I'm not the way you just saw me? There's a great quote from Orson Welles. No. Who wrote Brave New World? Was that? Huxley. The quote is, You didn't just see and hear what you just saw and heard. He was speaking of an authoritative government, which, by the way, you didn't just see and hear what you just saw and heard. But I did. I did. And there's something in me that somehow wants you to believe that you didn't just see and hear what you saw and heard. So the lie is a demand on the part of a nature that lives in the dark of us, that demands that everyone and everything see it, this image and this identity, as it is imagining itself to be. And if you don't, you're my enemy. You're my enemy because you can see that I lied. Let's bring up the key question for tonight's class. Read along with me, if you dare. What is any lie other than a futile attempt to hide from others and ourselves something about ourselves that we fear, should they see it, would likely cause them to see us in a light that we ourselves don't want to be seen standing in? And if this is true as regards our relationships with others, can we see the only reason we would ever lie to ourselves about ourselves must be out of some unseen fear of seeing ourselves as we are? Which begs the question, whose fear and whose lies are these? You all following properly? When you think about it, how can I be afraid? What is afraid of me seeing myself as I am? If I'm greedy, if I'm anxious, if I'm angry, if I'm rushing, if I'm resentful, if I'm filled with resentment, if all of these qualities are inside of this nature, and they are, generated as they have been by a personality run amok with imagination and trying to isolate itself as being someone someone who's not under the authority of the very nature it has created. So to what end lying to myself? To what end when an addict lies to himself or herself? To what end? Their destruction. Yes or no? So if I lie to myself about something that is destructive to me, am I the one lying to myself, or is there something that I'm identified with and don't know the difference that has dedicated itself to ensuring that it goes on at the expense of my life? The destruction of the possibility of my own soul, I might add. And it's so. Whose fear and whose lies are these? Have we gotten this far? Can you see that, at least for a moment, because that's what the class does, it brings in some light that ordinarily we don't see by. I must lie to myself 50 times a day and not even know I'm doing it. And if, in fact, I'm lying to myself 50 times a day, and I don't know that I'm... All psychological struggles are to prove true a lie that you've told yourself. All psychological struggles are to prove true a lie that you've told yourself, or that you've been conditioned to believe, which is the same thing. So what's the big lie? If you're following me, this is a little bit of a leap. Am I doing on time? What's the big lie? We've been looking at all this. What's the big lie? All told, how many of you understand we're in... Have you ever been caught in a riptide? You know, have you gone into the ocean and felt like you were about to be swept away? Now imagine someone in the ocean about being swept away, and he's telling himself, I'm not worried, I'm a champion swimmer. What happens to him? Even if he is, by the way, if he doesn't understand riptide. So here's the point. I'm carried away all the time. Something carries me away. When you're busy thinking through what's wrong with other people, Do you know why you're busy thinking through what's wrong with other people, judging them? Why you're busy making your plans and all the rest? Do you know why you're struggling with your plans in life? Do you know why? Because you have been sold a lie, you have told yourself a lie, and now you're struggling to make sure that the lie you're identified with doesn't play out the way you fear it will. Failing to see that the fact that just living under a lie has already caused you to fail at this process of discovering the possibility of being free. Here's the big lie. Are you ready? And then I have a special paper that we're going to go through. The big lie is this, and nobody wants to hear this. I myself have spent years not wanting to know what I now know. You ready? The big lie is, I'm going to sort this thing out myself. That's the big lie. You don't know who you're messing with. I have degrees. I'm educated. I've read every spiritual book that ever came down the pike. I've brushed the feet of gurus with my forehead. I've done everything. I'll sort this out. Now, why is it a lie in the moment when you are suddenly filled, listen to me, first with a struggle? You don't think I have anything to sort out until you find yourself in a struggle, yes or no? So boom, I'm in a struggle. Some disturbance comes. When I'm suddenly in a struggle and feeling disturbed by something, it's then that it occurs to me, in quotes, something starts telling me, you better sort this thing out. You can't leave this like this. Not a person of your caliber. Not someone with your qualifications. You don't have ordinary troubles. Therefore, this must be, yes or no, as all of us think, an extraordinary trouble. Who has extraordinary troubles? Liars. So here I am. I can do this. I need what? I need someone to hear me. I need a little more health. I need a little more money. I need a little more time. I need to get them to see things the way I see them. It's going to be a long haul, changing the whole world to get it to see the way I want it to see, but I'm up to it. And then what happens? Please, this is the inevitability of living a lie. God forbid that it happens to you as it happens to billions of human beings, and I'll tone it down so as not to scare you. Billions of human beings are on their deathbed realizing they told a lie to themselves and everyone else, and it's too late to change it. Living in fear while they're dying, instead of examining the nature full of fear and listening to the ways in which it lies in order to produce the sensation of itself that's the last thing that's sucked out of your body while you're still in one. Too graphic? I'm going to sort this out. I have the means to do it. I'm not the average bear. And so, in that moment, what is the lie? The lie is that my mind, my emotions, every part of me is locked onto some image of myself that is completely blind to the fact that I have told myself for 10,000 years, I'm going to sort this out. 1,000,000 years. Remember, we're not talking about you and I as these individuals that we imagine ourselves to be. This unconscious nature, the minute that it, in quotes, fell into this love of knowledge in order to be a divine being, instantaneously became locked in a constant struggle with anything that challenges its imagined divinity, and then it must lie to itself why it is that it's experiencing what it's experiencing, because someone like me shouldn't experience this. And I will know the answer once I sort it out. Can you see that, yes or no? And so, we come to a truth. I didn't put this in the key lesson, but I'm going to read it slowly enough to you. There exists one majestic truth that is feared, despised, and rejected by the masses. There is one majestic truth that is feared, despised, and rejected by the masses. And you know what it is? No lie can remain unrevealed. In time, it must surface and show both itself and liar. That's called justice. Karma. Oh, I just love that. Now, do I love that when I'm in the midst of, oh my God, what if somebody sees what I'm actually like? What if somebody sees that my cool, even demeanor is something that's so polished that I'm exhausted by the time I've displayed it, and then I have to go home and drink in order to get past what I've spent of myself? You don't look happy right now. I don't understand what's going on in this room. Look at me. You can love the truth so much that you don't fear seeing the liar in you. You are not the liar. You are deceived into speaking for the liar, into acting out the choices the liar gives you, but you are not the liar. The liar is this old man, this old nature that has imagined itself into existence and that keeps its continuity in place by giving you one more thing to struggle over when it's lied to you, telling you, if you just struggle one more time with this fear, this doubt, or this worry, you'll make it. And there I am, like this, dying, and I didn't make it. Do you want to be a man or a woman who begins by grace and by work to understand the gravity of living the way that we do now under the influence of this unconscious nature? And listen, I know that we're not even judging it. See, to judge that nature is to be part of a lie, born of you believing that somehow or other that nature isn't in me. It is. It's in everyone. It is a fallen nature. And it is our relationship to the revelation and the examination of our relationship with that fallen nature that begins to separate the wheat from the chaff, so that naturally the thing that we are no longer identified with falls away, and lo and behold, I don't need anything to be identified with, because there is no lie without identification. Can you make that leap? What do I lie about other than something I'm identified with? Please? So now what? I have here some notes, but I don't think I'm going to have time to get into it. I would say pick one, your most familiar, most compulsive thing that you do on a daily basis, because if you could see that, you would begin to understand some of the nature of what's compelling you to do what you do. But I think that what we're going to do instead is we're going to go, and we are, to our special writing, that we're going to examine together and see what we can see. Not see what we can try to do or be, but to see what we can see about this nature. You ready? It's on. You can download it if you're online, and if you're still online. It's called The Biggest Lie in the Whole World. What's the biggest lie in the whole world that not just incidentally gives birth to its twin that we call fear? Let's just pause there for a moment. Can you see that any time you lie to anyone or to yourself, it's out of fear? So can you separate a lie from the fear that tells it, or the fear from the lie that it gives birth to? Can you separate them, or are they secretly one thing? Secretly one thing. A fear that in turn is the unseen father of insatiable desires, whose unchecked fires help create the unending, conflict-born forms of sorrow and suffering we see raging from the personal to planetary. Now, what does that mean? Fear, the unseen father of insatiable desires. Where do my desires come from? I want to be someone special. I want you to see me this way. I want to own these things, because if I don't, I'm going to be inadequate, incomplete. You can't come up with a desire that isn't born of some kind of fear you can't see trying to lie its way into security by imagining a relationship with what it desires. Able to follow that, everybody, please? Whose unchecked fires create the unending conflict-born forms of sorrow and suffering. What does this world fight over? Does it fight over the truth? The world will say, yeah, we fight over the truth. I know the truth, you don't. But when two people know the truth, there's no fight. Period. So our fight, listen, is to somehow or other release ourselves from the suffering and sorrow that comes with being identified with a lie, nationally, religiously, philosophically, ideology, across the board. I am identified with something, and whatever I am identified with, I will lie until my teeth come out to get you to approve and see that I know and you don't. You're seeing this, by the way, all over now. You've never seen such enmity, so much violence and urgency in human beings to protect the truth. And I'm not speaking politically. Why does one nation make war on another? Because you live a lie. Your God isn't my God. My God is this God. You're propagating an economic war. You're behind everything that's evil and the starvation. We, on the other hand, are trying to handle everything and see everything gets done. So everybody sees everybody as a liar because no one will toe the line that you imagine they must to prove that your position is correct. Still with me? Let's go on. The biggest lie in the world is that of ourselves we have the power to free ourselves from the painful experience of being ourselves whenever comes along some unwanted condition to challenge who and what we've imagined ourselves to be. What do you try to free yourself from? How many of you know that you compulsively do this, that, or the other? Yes or no? And when I say compulsively, it means that I'm under the authority of something that's telling me that unless you give your attention to this, or do that, or say these things, unless you do that, something terrible is going to happen. So there's always a threat behind any compulsion, is there not? But when you're being compelled to do something, do you not always have a good reason why you must do that one more time? So, and I believe that the point being here, the biggest lie, is that I can free myself from this painful experience simply by lying to myself one more time. Can you free yourself from a painful experience that's the product of a lie by engaging in another lie? A long time ago, I don't know when it was, I had this silly little revelation. It connected heaven and earth for me. And it was, Patricia and I live on a mountain, and we go up and down this long driveway to take our trash down and stuff like that. And every once in a while we'll be driving along, and there will be a bottle from like 1920, an old tin can. There'll be something that has been laying in that dead dirt for 50, 60, 100 years. And when we drive by, there it is. And I think to myself, how does that happen? I'm describing to you how it happens. Everything will be exposed. Now, you don't know it, I promise you don't, but underneath all of this carefully created appearance lives this terror that something that I've been lying to myself all along, that I may not even know I lie to myself about, it's going to get out. And then people are going to see me in a light that they shouldn't see me because I'm really not that way, that I'm hiding by my lies. I ruined the line. Do you have to hide something that you're not? Do you? No. What do I hide? I hide what I'm not. Now, here's why rarely, if ever, we see this lie, let alone catch ourselves in it. Ready to go on? Let's go on, Debbie. A fear, no. The next, I went through the top 2 paragraphs. What's happening? Okay. Here's why we don't see this lie, let alone catch it. Even as some condition we've imagined will free us, proves itself powerless. Have you ever been in a place where what you've imagined will free you proves itself powerless? Even as it proves itself powerless to do so, then slips into that same moment a new desire for a freshly imagined plan, i.e. lie, and with its creation appears yet another new sense of myself that can't see it stands on its own grave. Another lie, another day, another missed opportunity, because I can't see that I am identifying with something that is burying me lie by lie by lie, action by action by action. Do you see it? I deliberately write certain things, and I know when I've said them truly enough because people don't like them. Yet appears another sense of self that cannot see it stands on its own grave. Do you know that every time you identify honestly with anything, you are digging a grave and standing on it? Because by law, anything you're identified with, you will have to, because of attachment, I'll have to protect. And if I have to protect it, it means I fear something challenging it, and I will do whatever I have to, include lying to myself about the fact that this is some strange, unique circumstance. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why you are being the way you are. And the more I can explain to myself why you are the way you are, the truer my own lie seems to me. Please, do you see it? Let's go on to the conclusion of this piece. The only thing that any lie we tell ourselves or to another does is postpone those dreaded, ultimately inevitable moments when we are made to see not just what a waste that lie has proven to be, but how we wasted so many moments when we missed the opportunity to see it as such and be set free accordingly. Do you know, there's no one by your name to be set free, but there is someone by your name that is ensuring you remain a captive of its level of consciousness and the lies it tells. And every lie it tells you is what you have to do to be free. You already are. Do read that paper several times. I would urge you to do so. Let's go on. Now what? I've got 7 minutes. Oh, do we see something fairly clearly here together? Now what? If I actually understand this, let's go to the third and last key lesson, please. Read with me. It's on my screen. Here it comes. I've been giving Debbie a lot to do. The only thing gained by any lie we tell ourselves or to others is that it's possible, let alone wise, to protect a fear. The only thing gained by any lie we tell ourselves or to anyone else is that it's possible, let alone wise, to protect a fear. Can it ever be wise to protect a fear? And is fear the father of these lies, and lies the father of fear? So what's your work? Last 5 minutes. I've been listening to you, sir. I've been nodding my head, having a few chuckles at myself. My mind just flashed on. Do you know there was a candy called Chuckles a long time ago? These god-awful jelly-like things fell from the sky somewhere, and somebody put them in a package and called them Chuckles, just for a laugh. What's my work? What's my work if I've understood this? The unanimous comment here is see the lie. But see, that's a little too convenient. Remember, this isn't philosophy, and this isn't a set of affirmations. Your discovery and your growth begins with the negation of a relationship that you don't know you're in, because it never lets you see you're in it by the lies it tells you and drags you into in order to keep itself hidden. Here's your work. It's always to question whether some fear knows whether or not what it's telling you is true. That's your work. On Sunday, I'm going to go into this at great depth. I'm excited to share some material with you. How many times do you hear, meaning do you feel? You don't necessarily hear the voices unless you actually go to work. Then they'll shout at you. How many times do you hear something say, don't go there, don't do that, no more of this, can't let them get away with that, this has to change or else? Do you not hear that all the time? And what happens when you hear that lie? Whether or not what is being intuited or the impression has validity, what is the nature of that lie that tells you, don't go there, don't look at this, don't examine that, dare under no circumstances to go into this circumstance where you're sure something terrible is going to happen to you? What is the nature of anything talking to you like that? Fear. A lie. What's it protecting? Oh, this is so important. It's protecting the God of itself. It's protecting an image of itself that it has twisted around until you imagine that what it professes is true is the truth, and therefore you must never do anything to challenge what it wants you to perceive as being itself. You have to discover for yourself. And listen to this, sounds like such a paradox. Again, Sunday, you have to discover for yourself that nothing bad can happen to you, so stop lying. Isn't the lie to protect yourself? We agreed on that, didn't we? So if the lie is to protect myself, what's the one thing I have to start doing to call the bluff on the lie? I have to stop protecting myself. In the morning you hear a voice, not yet, it's too soon to get out of bed. Some of you never get out of bed. You move from your bed to a couch, to a chair. Find out. How many of you reach points where you think, I'm doing it for you. Yes or no? I can't. Yes or no? No more. No more pain. Again, no more pain. How do you know? How do you know what's behind the lie of an identification with something that by its existence keeps you locked into the conditions it has defined as possible and not possible for you? Do you understand? Pick one. How many of you can pick one lie that you know is fairly common to you? Yes or no? I can think of a couple. If you want, I'll go around the room and tell you. One lie. No judgment. No judgment. One lie that you know you live with. Not the whole shebang. You're incapable of it. One. Pick one. The most familiar, and make it your aim to examine it no matter what. And how do I examine that one lie no matter what? How do I do that? I have to go against what it's telling me is true. Not resist what's telling me, but go against the habitual relationship of remanding myself over to its determination so that I can discover through my own effort whether or not that lie is, whether that's a lie or not. And you'll always find out that it was a lie because you'll always see something about yourself that it would never show you. Then you're on the way. Everybody free? A little more maybe, but especially if you go to work with these ideas. Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to get started with our Q&A here in just a second. I just want to remind everyone that, especially online, that all our free classes are sponsored by the Life of Learning Foundation here in Merlin, Oregon, where Guy is the director. And we first of all want to thank all of you who are regularly help us financially by making donations, large or small. They all help. And if you'd like to participate in that as well, even if wherever you are, it's you can just simply go to guyfinley.org/donate, and that will have everything you need. And you can do that at any time. You can do it now, or you can do it any time, and you can participate in that. If you're receiving something here, most likely we feel we want to give back. So if that's your way, then we appreciate it. And also, if you could give back, that doesn't cost you anything. If you go to guyfinley.org/donate, and they'll show you ways that you can be able to help the foundation. So I thank you in advance for that. I think it's all the announcements I have right now. Tonight, we're trying this where the host is here with my handy iPad. We're going to see if this works. And Guy, before we go into that, do you have any words?
Not really.
Just go ahead and go.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, we have 2 in the queue, and I don't have any written questions yet. So, Katie, I do not see any microphone.
So try tapping on Tony.
Okay. Tony, you are going to be first, and nope, I think you have to do that.
It's all of you. It's all Tony and
Oh,
Tony, can you unmute on your end?
She's there.
She's there.
okay, I wasn't sure. I was waiting to tell me to unmute.
You're
I'm
there.
very good at following orders. Okay, hi, Guy. I apologize. I came in a little late, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying. Am I over-identified with the Declaration of Independence?
If you are angry or suffering or in a stew, yeah, and you know, look, we
We
are.
hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed with unalienable rights, life, liberty, the
Please
pursuit
don't
of
read that
happiness,
to me.
and when any form of government
No,
becomes destructive. You know what I'm saying?
Tony, I know. No, but I know what you're saying. You don't know yet what you're saying. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. You tell me how equally you treat people. You tell me that
do.
your mind doesn't look left and right and cut. No, listen. Listen.
I am.
You can't talk and listen at the same time. These are beautiful ideas. These are beautiful ideals, Tony. This whole talk was about a beautiful ideal, that we are created with the inalienable right to live from an interior living light that reveals to us moment to moment where it is that we are living under a false dictatorship, a false authority. And there will be no freedom from any false authority out there until we have extricated ourselves from our identification with this false authority within. So the first Declaration of Independence was crafted by men who understood that there is the possibility of an inalienable right where men and women will treat each other with respect and kindness. But it was not to happen any more than the 10 Commandments are fulfilled by human beings who agree to live by them, or any other spiritual work. You have to be able to separate where it is that you are identified with an ideal. And by the way, you can know that you're identified with an ideal is how harshly you judge everyone and anything that doesn't live up to your ideal of the way they're supposed to be. So we start, Tony, and always at the same place, with the willingness to see myself as I am and to recognize that this fire and fury that you feel about this condition is no different than the fire and fury than those who denigrate those relationships that have been established over time that seem to be the representation of these ideals. So it all has to be seen, and it has to be taken in, Tony, with a certain grain of salt, meaning a willingness to understand, yes, I want to live this way, I want to be this way, but I need to see where it is that I am not this way, and I lie to myself about how others should be because they're not like me. That's the important thing, Tony. You're far enough along to understand that. Anything that grabs you because it has gotten hold of an identity that you don't know you have, and that is telling you that you are threatened by this condition. You are not threatened by the condition, you're threatened by a consciousness that believes unless everybody lives up to that identity, then there's a problem. And you have to sort it out, Tony. You sent in a question that I'm going to deal with. I don't know if I'm going to get to it tonight. We just, how do I say this? The whole talk was about it. I'm sorry you missed it. Go back and listen to it, by the way.
I will, thank you.
I have to go into this. Not I have to think about this. Not I have to form a political pressure or power group in order to deal with this. I have to go into this myself with no assumptions, naked, without anything to protect myself. I must go into this state of myself and see whether or not this state and all the components that create this experience of myself, see what is the truth about this state of myself. And if I go into that deeply enough and see the state of myself, I'll see the government that rules me. And then I'll understand the government that rules the rest of this world and the reason it's at war with every other government. Because I'm at war with myself, saying and professing I want to be this way when I do exactly the opposite when the moment comes and I can't do other, and then I lie to myself about it. This is tough stuff, Tony, but I think you're up to it. In fact, I know you are. On we go, Doug. And by the way, I like this a lot, having the host up here with the iPad. It's more interesting for everybody.
Just a reminder that, obviously in the room you can come up at any time. I'll get out of your way. And also, if you have a question you want to write it into the chat boxes and we'll bring that up next. So let's go to Jill next. Okay, Jill.
Okay,
There you are. It's running
here.
seamlessly.
okay, so one of my lies is comparison. And on some level, I know this. I see the movement. But sometimes it's like a brick wall saying, nope, not going to let go. And I know this is like resistance. And I feel like that's another lie. So do the lies just keep coming? One on top of another?
Here's what Jill's saying, and
Feels
again, don't miss Sunday, probably Saturday either, but this Sunday. Here's what she's saying. I don't want it to be like this. I don't want it to be like this. Because I can see the truth, and I have a right part of me that loves the truth, and indeed you do. But I don't want to see that it's like this because it contradicts everything that I say I want to be and see. And I'm stuck in this crucible that I don't know what to do with. And that's the whole point of the talk. Don't lie to yourself about being in that crucible. Stay right in the middle of it. See your ambition, your greed, your fear. See how anxious and resentful you. See everything. And see it with equanimity. So that you're an observer of this entire furor called this false self, as it's struggling all the time to get everything straightened out, and so it can lie to itself that it's got everything settled. There's no settling this life. Life settles itself. I've told you that. But it can't settle itself if you're lying to yourself about how it should be settled or what you have to do to get it settled. There's no such creature. And what Jill's going through, and maybe some of you in the room, is realizing this is terrible. This is terrible. This wasn't what I signed up for. There will never be a man or a woman who awakens that doesn't at some point realize this isn't what I signed up for. And then you'll see the lie that you signed up for it to begin with. So, 4 words, Jill, write them down. You ready? Hang in there, Jill. If you'll hang in there, willing to see, you will see. You're not going to see all at once, but you will see as much as you can and are able to see. That all at once will separate you a little bit more from Jill and her wish that life wasn't so complicated and difficult. On we go. I want to get a stool for the,
Yeah, I can, we'll do that next time.
Okay.
It reminds me of the poster with the cat.
Yeah.
Its claws hang in there.
Yeah.
You know, anyway. That was my little addition, John, for that. Let's see, we're going to go next to Jane.
We're getting to you, Jane. There you are, if you're there.
I'm here. Hello,
Hi.
and hello to everyone. Thank you very much for this talk. I've been pondering something that you said recently, and I think that this whole discussion has shed further light on it, if I'm understanding correctly. So I want to check it out with you.
Okay.
You said the end of becoming is the same as coming home. And if I'm getting it correctly, I think becoming is all the lies that we tell ourselves to keep our false image of ourselves in place. That's what the becoming is. I think that's what you're saying.
That's fine. That's a good understanding. Now, don't rest on your laurels. Never really thought about that sentence till just now. To rest on, it's probably from the days of the Olympics, the early Olympics in Greece. Don't rest on what you've won. Persist with developing yourself further. Next leg of the race. And when I say the next leg of the race, I was just making this note. I was going to talk about it later. And when you see raindrops coming down, are they in a race? Oh, is one raindrop racing to beat another one? Are they? How about when you see these beautiful summer winds pick up all these leaves? Are those leaves in a race? Some leaf going, water running in, is each molecule of water in a race with the other? Are they? No, what are they? What's going on? They are being carried along by a certain movement of energy, aren't they? So when St. Paul said, finish the race, he wasn't talking about the race you've imagined. He was saying, finish your relationship to what is carrying you along and showing you interiorly the living Christ and what that light shows you about yourself. Stay in that current. That's what it's saying. That's what I'm saying to you, Jane, and everybody. On we go.
The next in the queue is Sarah. Sarah?
There she is.
Hey there.
Hi, Sarah.
So, I don't know. I have a few different questions, or not. I guess they're not really questions, but when you said to say something, that you lie about, I couldn't think of anything because I was like, I don't know. I don't really. I feel like I don't really avoid conflict. I just kind of if it approaches me, I just hit it head on, But then, of course, I was thinking earlier at work today about how I read something about how we try to individualize ourselves from everybody else to protect our ego. And I was pondering that, and I felt like it, I was pondering it, and I was just like, how? How do I individualize myself? And then when you said that, when you asked that question, how do you lie to people or to yourself, or how do people lie?
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, that's okay. Listen, this is great. Here you are, here I am, wherever you are. I'm in Oregon. So she said, and this is quite understandable, I don't feel like I avoid things. She said, I meet them head on. So here is where the lie is for you to see, not as a judgment. So I've been meeting things head on, and boy, do I have a headache. I've not changed the fact that I constantly run into conflict, and that I'm constantly meeting them head on and struggling to overcome them. At some point, Sarah, and it will or won't be true for you, you'll realize, you know what? I'm so tired of fighting with everything. I don't change people when I'm in conflict with them. If anything, my resistance ensures that they stay in resistance to me. I've tried to escape. I say I meet my sense of inadequacy head on. And yet every moment comes along and I'm still having to struggle to prove that I'm not inadequate. Because what am I trying to do with people when I'm convincing them of what I know or what they should do, other than I know? Now, Sarah, you have to look at yourself and say, you know what? There is a certain amount of pain there all the time. I think I get something put away and something else pops up. And then I put that away and something else pops up. And there's an endless string of challenges that, because of my particular personality type, I'm a type A person, no problem for me. Meet it head on. Do you want to go through life fighting to prove that you know how to get through things? Or would you like to have a life that you see is going through you, and that your relationship to that life that is passing through you is to bring an end to every struggle you have with life by allowing you to see that you are not separate from the life that you're struggling with? Is not every struggle with a moment the proof that somehow or other I'm other than the moment I'm struggling with, isn't it? And so maybe someday, Sarah, because you sound like a fighter, got to be a fighter, you got to start there. Maybe one day you wonder, I wonder what happened if I put down the gloves. Am I afraid to put down the gloves? What if that's true and I've never known it? Well, something's been lying to me. So now I'm going to examine it. So a good exercise would be just one time, Sarah. Don't put on the gloves. Don't get in the ring. Now you'll hear your mind tell you in 10,000 different ways, but this is the fight that I got to get into. Because that's what it always says, doesn't it? Isn't it always the fight you have to fight? Find out. Find out. Find out, Sarah. I would love to hear a report back, maybe a week or two from now, when you've decided you're not going to get in the ring, and then you find yourselves in round 10 and hoping that you're winning. Bruised as we are, we're always bruised when we fight. You can learn from fighting instead of letting fighting tell you what you have to do to be free. I hope that helps a little bit, Sarah. It's well intended, if nothing else. Over to you, Doug.
If anybody in the room would like to come, you're welcome. Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terry. How about this for a lie? I'm so glad I'm not that bad.
Yeah, no, that's quite common.
And it's such a lie. I mean, talk about a lie here. So, when Terry was growing up, Terry hated to be told what to do. Go mow the lawn, go do the dishes. She couldn't stand being told what to do. And just yesterday, so when I wake up in the morning, I do certain things. I do for the work, I post things, I do that. I got through my things, and then there she was, sitting there, waiting for herself to tell her what to do next. And there was so much pressure in that moment. There was so much pressure. And what is that pressure? It's just these lies. It's these identified beliefs that have been suppressed, pushed down. It was like a mountain. And the lie is that you're not able to, even though there wasn't a part of me that could really bear all of that in that moment, but the lie is that you're not able to. But the truth is you can't, like this whole talk was about. We need to turn it over to something that can help us see in that moment and take that and show us what we need to see. But this whole thing is, I mean, our whole lives are basically just one big lie, and that's what we need to see, and nobody wants to see it, right? Because what are we then, right?
Let me help you with that a little bit, Terry. Go ahead, sit down. This understanding doesn't change the nature that you understand in the moment that you catch a glimpse of it. The understanding indicates there's a portal through which you can begin to perceive the truth of the nature that you don't know anything about. The real pressure is, who am I without something to do? That's the lie. I am no one unless I have something meaningful and important to do. And therefore, I must create for myself more meaningful, important things to do. And that's what human beings do with their life all day long. They make lists, they struggle to accomplish things, they try to continually appear in the eyes of others the way they think others need to see them. And our life is spent living out a lie that basically is predicated on this idea that without something to do, without someone to be, without something to become, I don't have a life. And so that fear produces the lie that you must do, act, say, run, blah, 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 in order to keep myself in place. That's what I was telling Sarah. Let's not keep Sarah in place. Let's displace her for a moment or two so we can see something about the pain of the place that she believes she has to occupy. You got it? Yeah, come on, Doug.
You can see we have 3 hands in the queue. We have Paul, Rebecca, and Tony. So we'll
Well, we're just going to go with, we'll catch Tony on the turn next Sunday. So we'll go to Paul and Rebecca, who we've not spoken to, because it's 7:30.
We're going to go to Paul first.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Paul.
All right. So I just wanted to share, it can really be so interesting to catch a glimpse of I guess what an absolute lie this sense of self is. And a perfect example is today I carried around a sense of self that was so eager to settle into the peace of attending this very class tonight. And then as I got through the class, I kept catching myself practically squirming in my feet with restlessness. Just the mind wandering, and Paul just could not be still, internally and almost externally, throughout the whole of class. So both senses of self are a lie.
Yeah, well, again, please, as best you can, not to judge yourself. But what are lies other than the way in which the mind, divided as it is, tries to reconcile the conflict that it has? I say one thing about myself, and then I find out that self, apparently he didn't get the rest of the message, how much I love the truth. Because all it wants is a cupcake right now, or if anything, just to get away from paying attention to something that I lost interest in about 25 minutes ago. Yeah, no, but see, that's what you need to see. And not take sides. Experiment. Find out. Go into it. You're all right, Paul. Don't lash yourself tonight, okay?
Okay, let's go next to Rebecca.
Okay, technical difficulty. I was going to say, I'm happy to relinquish my time. I was just going to make a general comment. Kind of rather have Tony have some closure, maybe. Is that okay with you?
No.
Okay, so I'll just go on then. I was just going to say I really resonated with your last response. I think it was to Sarah. I had this feeling of the hungry ghost, like listening to the talk and saying, gosh, if I don't, what am I going to do with my life? Like, if there's nothing to, quote, be. And so your comment, it just really struck me. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling. So thank you for that. And then just a song reference, you had mentioned the Temptations' Smiling Faces. I feel like this talk was like a twist on Killing Me Softly by Roberta Flack, because everything you're saying is just like so true. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate everything you guys do.
I like that. Killing Me Softly, classes with Guy Finley. Try to see this as a last image, because that's it, right? Try to see this as a last image. When puppies are born, kittens are born, they're born, how are they born? With their eyes closed. Now, under the laws of nature, there's something being developed in them that requires that they don't have the the physical sense of eyes yet. Maybe it's that they have to require. Did you know that little puppies have heat sensors in their nose? That's how they find the nipple. They don't have to see it. They sense the heat. But it's not entirely incorrect to think of yourself as a spiritual puppy. I'm hungry. I need nourishment. And something in me wants to open my eyes. And can you imagine when a puppy's eyes open the first time? Here's a world that was completely dark, and now it's suddenly filled with forms and sights and things that were unattainable a moment before. You are learning to open your eyes. You are learning to open your eyes. If you had eyes to see and ears to hear, you are discovering that you have eyes and ears. And that it is not something done all at once, because as the eye opens, so opens to that eye everything that it was given to see. And what you are given to see is far beyond anything that thought projects as what's important. Because one day you'll start seeing how thought has decided for you what's important, and you'll understand that the lie is the relationship with thinking instead of with seeing. And you'll become more and more willing to be the seer, the hearer of what is present, instead of one pursuing what's not, because it's not what you want. That's it. I'll see you Saturday and on Sunday.
Thank you.